Good afternoon. My name is Yvonne Barcelona, and I'm the Managing Director of ECCA. I'm very pleased to welcome you today to this webinar, aiming at increasing the understanding of pre-painted metals. On this slide, you can see what we intend to cover this afternoon. As you see, a long list of topics we'd like to cover. Before we start, we have prepared a disclaimer that for the benefit of time, I will leave you to read at your ease when you receive a copy of the presentation. At this stage, I would like to thank Peggy, Guillaume, and Jason, who have been sourcing sources of inspiration and information to prepare today's webinar. And before we really move into the subject, a few words on ECCA. So the European Coil Coating Association is the voice of the coil coating industry in Europe and represents a bit more than 90 companies. Within our membership, we have 36 coil coaters and their major suppliers, whether they're paint, chemicals, or equipment suppliers. We are based in Brussels and were founded 55 years ago. Our main mission is to promote the use of pre-painted metals as the best method of metal finishing in terms of environment, cost, and quality. In 2021, ECCA members shipped over 1.5 billion square meters of pre-painted metal and consumed 225,000 tons of paint. This afternoon, our speaker will be Chantal Breton from ArcelorMittal, but she's here in her quality of chair of ECCA Marketing Committee. Then we have Stelios Siantikos from Elval Colors, Michel Stasiak from Beckers, and ECCA team, Terry Goodwin, who is our Sustainability Director, and Eglantine Auchard, who is in charge, among other things, of ECCA statistics. I will now give the floor to Terry Goodwin, who will explain the coil coating process and also the product.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. In this first section of the webinar, I'd like to show you the coil coating process and describe the structure of the product that is produced by that process. First of all, I'd like to compare the post-painting process, a batch process, with coil coating. With post-painting, we start with the bare metal, cut the metal to size, form to the required shape, and then paint. The painted product is then used in the final end-use application. In comparison, coil coating is a continuous process. It takes the bare metal substrate, paints the metal on a continuous coil coating line, and then the painted product is cut into shape, formed to make the end use application. As you can see, two very different methods of painting a metallic surface. Next slide, Yvonne. This slide shows a schematic of a coil coating line. You will get a copy of this presentation, so this diagram is for your future reference. I'd now like to show you an animation of the coil coating process, which will help you understand the various stages of production of the product.
The chemical process zones immediately after the entry accumulator in this line consists of cleaning followed by rinsing the application of a conversion coating followed by a drying stage. The strip then enters the organic coating zone and travels below the first roller coater before it is painted on both sides in the primer coater. It is then cured in an oven, cooled by a water quench and dried with an air blower. The strip then reverses its direction and passes through a paint coater that applies a green top coat, followed by the application of an orange backing coat. From there, both coatings are cured in a second oven, cooled by water quenching and dried as before. The painted coil passes through the illuminated area for quality inspection. The strip then enters the exit accumulator, which under normal running conditions is kept empty. This accumulator allows the line to run continuously by filling up while the exit section slows or stops in order to remove a completed coil.
Okay, so you can see from that animation, this is a multi-stage process, and the advantages of this continuous process is that it gives the highest standard of quality assurance both within the coil itself and between coils. It has significantly lower environmental emissions than batch or post-painting processes, and all of our lines in Europe are operated in accordance with the latest national and European standards for emissions to air and emissions to water. I would now like to describe to you the structure of a pre-painted product and present some of the advantages that derive from both the coil coating process and the resulting product. You can see here a typical cross-section of a pre-painted metal product. The metal substrate, whether it be galvanized steel or aluminium, is first treated with a pre-treatment layer to ensure adhesion of the subsequent primer layers. Primer and top coat are then added to the front surface of the metal to provide the aesthetic appearance, and the back coat applied to the reverse side to provide protection. In some applications, a strippable film is applied where we need to protect the exterior surface during transportation or handling prior to forming, for example. Having explained the process and the product, some of the benefits of the product can be divided into three main categories. First of these is product performance. The process gives a consistent quality which will facilitate high productivity and through yields for your own customer processes. The product has a very uniform paint layer in a wide range, which is available in a wide range of colors, surface finishes, and gloss levels. For construction applications in particular, we're able to offer long guarantee periods of up to 40 years based on the excellent corrosion performance of the overall painted system. The second category of benefits relate to sustainability. Here, independent life cycle assessments show that the environmental impact of pre-painted metals is favorable when compared to post-painted metal. All of our products are compliant with environmental regulations about surface treatment and solvent emissions. They're also REACH compliant with an absence of harmful substances in the paint. Finally, the products are easily recyclable at the end of their service life. Product benefits of switching to painted products can therefore be summarized as improved efficiencies for yourself, higher product quality, and reduced environmental impact. The third category relates to business benefits. The first of these business benefits is simplified manufacturing and regulatory compliance, which is based on the fact that our coil coating lines are operated to the highest European standards. The adoption of pre-painted metal will lead to savings in your investment costs on paint lines, cleaning lines, and waste treatment facilities. You'll also observe a reduction in energy consumption and a reduction in your space requirements for processing material. There will be a reduction in your manufacturing cost and lead time and a financial cost of managing the stocks. We have a number of examples where customers have had cheaper fire insurance because of the absence of their own in-house coating processes, and the use of pre-painted metal also leads to simplified environmental licenses to operate. In summary, then, the business benefits of pre-painted products are reduced investment costs at your own manufacturing sites, reduced working capital, and reduced costs of compliance. I'll now hand over to Eglantine, who will describe the market for pre-painted metals for you.
I hope you see the screen. I'm Eglantine Auchard from ECCA. I'm responsible for statistics. And in fact, markets for pre-painted metals is a key issue for our membership. It is mandatory for coil coaters and for paint suppliers to provide their shipments data to ECCA, and we publish a report on a quarterly basis. ECCA is in fact the only association in Europe that can provide such data for each end-use markets. It is summarized here. Prepainted steel and aluminium are added on the graph, and you can see that building is clearly the predominant end-use sector, but there are some other markets that are increasing in share. In total, almost 6,000 kilotons of prepainted metals are shipped every year. This histogram shows the historical evolution of prepainted steel, prepainted aluminium, and paint activity. And except during the financial crisis in 2009, as you can see, both substrates and coatings have a very positive momentum. Indeed, prepainted metal is a growing market. This slide is about prepainted aluminium only. And if we compare 2021 to 2020, we see an increase by nearly 13%. Except exports, all end-use markets increased last year compared to previous year. And for this year, based on the first 9 months of this year, we estimate a further increase by 5%. Here, this is the evolution of prepainted aluminium shipments since 2007 for each end-use market. And as shown on this chart, there was a deceleration due to the financial crisis in 2009, but today we are even above the level of 2007, which was at record level. And general industry and building sectors have gained some shares. So now, Stelios, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eglantine. Now we will see together the prepainted aluminium and the applications. As Eglantine already said, more than 70% is related to the building sector. Prepainted aluminium in building sector, it's something that we see quite often, but with a wide variety. This variety of application is increasing from years to years. Mainly, we have the facade of the buildings, the roofing, gutters, rolling shutter, shutter doors, and something which is becoming more and more famous, solar panels. As we can see together in the next slide, we are having the possibility to see rolling shutters, which someone can buy either as slats or from producers that are giving a final product in which is something very famous, Eglantine, into the final product into the houses in Europe. This product category is a very big part of the total coated aluminium sector. However, we see the aluminium coming more and more often in the garage doors applications, which also creates a stability of the performance of the material. However, as we will see in the next slides, we have architects which have more and more the possibility to use the prepainted aluminium into the architectural designs in iconic buildings, and with having the possibility to use variety of color finishes with higher performance, even if the buildings are in the seaside or, let's say, marine environments. Additionally, as we will see also, we have the possibility in huge surfaces, in buildings, in stadiums, or in airports, like in the next photo, to use the prepainted aluminium, where we have a harmonized finish on the coloring system, even if this again is next to marine application or close to airports where we have aggressive environments. Additionally, we see more and more the use of prepainted aluminium into smaller scale projects for double folding material for roofing applications, where is more and more popular also in the European materials and markets. We have Additionally, the pre-painted aluminium, which is for many years used in roofing windows, something which now with the last 3-4 years, and as we have seen also with the COVID, we have a lot of renovations and many people are using because they want to put options of using the houses in a bigger scale rooms and also to have the sunlight entering into their houses. Rain gutters. Rain gutters is again a possibility which is becoming as an alternative because of pre-coated aluminium. We have the possibility to replace traditional other competitive materials like copper, because now we have copper finishes which is giving a better value to the total budget of the houses. However, as we will see in the next page, we have in lower budget projects, we can also use the pre-painted aluminium for standard corrugated sheets. The use of aluminium traditionally and after the building sectors, as we can see, can be also used for the automotive and holiday houses, something which needs very good durability, and this is what the pre-painted aluminium can provide and guarantee. Then we have the use of aluminium, of the pre-painted aluminium, to applications like ceilings, in high gloss surfaces, or even in balconies. Signage and corporate identity is again a sector where we can see, because of the light weight of the aluminium, we can also see an opportunity. Additionally, because of this advantage of light weight of material, we see more and more substructure systems for sidings of buildings under a tailor-made spec. And we can also see the use of pre-painted aluminium because of the different finishes into application for interior application, where the architects can provide the material for the ceilings or for the balconies or for the bathrooms. And finally, we see that the architects, with the use of the aluminium, they have the possibility to provide more artistic solutions where they can give different layouts within malls or different other buildings in high scale. Thank you. Now, Eglantine, for you.
Thank you, Stelios. And here, this is a comparison of pre-painted steel shipments in 2020 and 2021 for each end-use market. Last year showed an increase by more than 6% compared to 2020, thanks to an increase of building products, but more particularly thanks to a booming demand of general industry and white goods products. And if we look at the evolution since 2015 for pre-painted steel, as said previously, this is a growing market since many years. This chart shows that the building demand have been increasing and general industry and white goods sectors are booming. And if we look at those two sectors more in details, we can see that white goods demand increased by more than 40% compared to the year 2015, while general industry demand rose by 22% during the same period. This increase is due to the remote working notably, and it is expecting to continue in the coming years. Now, Chantal, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eglantine. I'm Chantal Breton from ArcelorMittal, and I will present you now the application of the pre-painted steel. Next, Eglantine. So the main application is the building sector. You have seen that in the statistic. So all is possible for the creativity of the architects in terms of shape, in terms of colors, gloss, and aspect. This is the main sector. but I will be more focused on the non-building sector, which is really in a strong growth. First, the white goods, so a lot of application, washing machine, fridges, really we see clearly a strong increase for this sector, but for the sector related to white goods as cold store refrigeration, we see really the trend from post-painted to pre-painted steel. Next, Eglantine. So the lighting industry, this is a sector using pre-painted steel for a long time. The same for ceiling tiles, a lot of application. The doors, more and more application for the doors, especially with all the new and interesting aspects. For the building accessories, we have the gutter, the garage doors, two important sector, and small application in rolling shutters. A booming sector too, we see really a grow and transfer from post-paint to pre-paint. That's a heating and ventilation sector with application as boilers, heat pump, big equipment for the climatization we put on the rooftop, and electrical equipment. This is a sector using more and more pre-painted steel too. So other sector as furniture are using pre-painted steel too, the whiteboards, and an interesting application, that's the back cover of the TV. You see here a very difficult part, but possible in pre-painted steel.
Good afternoon. I am Michał Stasiak from Becker's Group, and I am to talk about coatings today. People have been painting different objects and their constructs for almost ever. The two main reasons are to beautify and protect. And it's the same for pre-coated metals and everything what is produced of them. By applying colors or tactile effects, we can express our intention or enhance function of the object. Coatings have to provide protection against different factors, like, for example, moisture, UV rays, atmospheric pollutants, microbial growth, corrosion, or surface cracks. In coating of pre-coated metals, we use a multi-layer paint system to achieve that goals. Top coats are responsible for aesthetics, barrier effect, chemical resistance, mechanical properties like scratch resistance, flexibility, hardness. They are applied over primers, which function is to deliver corrosion protections and ensure interlayer adhesion. On the back side of the steel or aluminium belt, we apply back coats, and their function is to ensure corrosion resistance, but also allow adhesion to foam and glues. Liquid paint formulations consist essentially of resins, which in combination with cross-linkers create binders. These are polymers which in a dry or cure form are the main components of coatings. They contribute to film build, adhesion, hardness, flexibility, durability, appearance, as well as resistance to chemicals or other factors like, for example, heat. Generally, they provide performance and can also add to functionality. Pigments are responsible for color, opacity, and aesthetics. They add to other functions, and I will speak about this later. We use also additives. They are used in small amounts. They are responsible for functionality and application of the paint. We cannot forget about solvents. They keep resins in solution and make the application of the paints possible. They are not the part of the final layer of cured coating, but there are necessary agents for the process of the painting. Type of binder, together with number of layers and total drying film thickness, determine overall quality of the coating system. There are different chemistries used, and each of them offer different properties. In this chart, you can see a schematic overview of their performance in aesthetic and corrosion protection areas. The most common are polyesters in different qualities, standard, silicone modified, and high durable, sometimes called super durable. Besides them, very popular are polyurethanes, fluorocarbons, PVDF, and polyvinyl chlorides, PVC. Speaking about all their properties, advantages, and drawbacks would require much more time that we don't have today. It can be topic for a different webinar. Pigments are far crystalline powders of particle size ranging from nanometers to micrometers. Generally, they are responsible for color and aesthetics, but have also other function like ensure providing UV light hiding, reducing gloss level, improving durability and adhesion. They can also increase corrosion resistance and strengthen the paint film, as well as modify flow and application properties. By using combination of binders and pigments, we are able to offer almost unlimited range of colors, effects, and qualities. And here are the examples. Surfaces with a different gloss level from a very low matte below 5 units up to high gloss above 90 units. Special effects like metallics, iridescent, pearlescent, textured, and other tactile surfaces. We can even offer imitation of different other materials like wood, stone, stainless steel, and copper without copying some of their limitations. In addition to multiply properties and technical performances, we can create additional surface functionalities, like, for example, anti-graffiti, antibacterial and antiviral, self-cleaning, phosphorescent, retroreflective, or radiative. In this way, we can make pre-coated metals even more attractive materials for construction and other markets, like, for example, domestic appliances. In the end, as Terry already mentioned, in some cases, temporary protective films are applied on surface of pre-coated metals. Their function is to protect it against damage, scratching, or soiling through manufacturing, transporting, and storage. They are also called strippable films, as they are to be removed after processing or installation. Therefore, it's essential to establish proper level of adherence to the paint surface, peeling strength, as well as right stability over time to ensure easy removal with no degradation of the protected surface. Thank you. That's all about coatings. And now it's over to Terry.
Thank you, Michelle. I'd like to continue then the webinar with a discussion on the quality and testing of pre-painted metals. Before I go into that detail, I'd like to just take you through some of the weathering processes that pre-painted metals are designed to resist. If a pre-painted building is installed in a rural area, then it is subject to degradation by sunlight or ultraviolet radiation. In addition, rainfall will lead to water sitting on the pre-painted metal surface for prolonged periods of time. These environmental conditions are aggravated by the presence of industrial facilities, which typically emit contaminants such as ammonia and acids into the environment. These chemicals will contribute to the corrosive atmosphere that surrounds the pre-painted metal building in an industrial location. When the location is a tropical desert region, then the building is subject to very high levels of ultraviolet radiation, which obviously can cause premature failure of the film. Finally, if the building is located on a coastal region, the presence of salt in the local atmosphere will also create an aggressive corrosion environment. Given the range of different environmental conditions that can exist around a pre-painted metal building, it is important that the right coating system is specified in order to achieve the right durability and service life for the buildings. Pre-painted metals are a good example of 1 + 1 = 3. Through the combination of all of the parts working together, the total system performance is far greater than the sum of the individual parts. The main characteristics of the product can be divided into aesthetic and visual properties such as color and gloss. The others relate to service performance, particularly things such as formability, corrosion resistance, and resistance to weathering. All of these properties can be either measured in-line on the production facility or offline in the laboratory, and can be characterized by different tests and measurements. Product specifications of the product are always based on these tests. In order for us, the coil coating supplier, to define the required performance for the product, it is important that we work with customers to know the following information: the constraints on the product during processing, such as forming, storage conditions, etc., and the final application and service conditions. In simple terms, whether it's going to be indoor and outdoor, whether it's going to be a domestic appliance or a heating and ventilation facility. In order to help customers and suppliers work together, there are two technical standards that the industry works to. First is EN 1396, which covers pre-painted aluminium products. The second is EN 10169, which covers pre-painted steel products. We don't have time to go into the detail today, but more information on the content of these standards is available at the ECCA website. In addition to those two standards, ECCA has been working with the CEN, the European Test and Standards Agency, to define a whole range of test methods. These test methods are the reference documents for the industry and are used to define the product specification between the coil coater and the customer. The standard number is EN 13523. This is the third specific coil coating standard in Europe, and it has 25 different parts, each detailing a different test method. Parts can be divided into three broad categories. The first relate to color measurements, quality measurements, such as dry film thickness, color matching, and resistance to abrasion. There are plenty there on the screen for your information. The second group relates to those parts that deal with the corrosion performance of the product, both for external applications such as salt spray testing or internal applications such as humidity testing. The final group are those related to product performance under specific situations. These include the adhesion of strippable film, which Michelle has just talked about, and resistance to pressure marking if the coil of material has to stand for a long time in stock. That's a very quick run through of the standards, but I'd like to spend a little time on color, as color is a very important parameter in coil coating. The color of the final product is a key part of the specification, and this slide describes the color measurement technique that is used throughout the industry. This is known as C-lab, where the color space is divided into three axes as shown in the sphere. The vertical axis describes the transition from light to dark color. The horizontal axis defines the transition from green to red color. And the final third axis, which is coming out of the page towards you, measures the transition between yellow and blue color. By using the combination of these three coordinates in this space, we can define any color that is used in the industry. The example on the right-hand side of the page illustrates the sensitivity of this technique to color difference. If we start with the color in the center, this is RAL 1015, a light ivory color. You can see by moving horizontally to either the right or left along the L axis, a darker shade or a lighter shade of color is obtained. The two top panels show the transition to a more yellow color along the B axis or a redder color along the A axis. And then the bottom two show the opposite transition from -5 along the A axis towards green and -5 on the B axis towards blue. The subtle differences in these colors demonstrate the sensitivity of the technique to measuring color difference. However, when we use this color measurement technique, we must recognize the need for tolerances, and these tolerances are shown in the table on the left-hand side of the page. To help customers understand the different test methods that we use in the industry, we've produced a number of videos that are available on our YouTube channel. We'll just now show you a small sample of the one related to the T-bend test.
EN 13523 Part 7, often called the T-bend test, is used to assess the flexibility of pre-painted metal and the resistance of the coating to cracking when formed. There are two methods described in the Euronorm, but here we only show the folding method, which is the most commonly used. This test can either be done using a standard benchtop vise or using special equipment such as the folder and flywheel press shown here.
Thank you, Eglantine. In addition to that information that's available on our website, we've also produced some documents which will help you understand the product and select the right system for your application. First of these is the basics of corrosion, shown here on the left, which will help you understand the different mechanisms of corrosion that take place with the products and the types of technology that we use to minimize the effects of corrosion. The second on the right is choosing the right pre-painted metal product, and this is a guide to help you select the right product for the right application. Both documents can be downloaded from the ECCA website via the link shown on the page. I'd like now to move towards to discuss sustainability in coil-coated products. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the European Green Deal. This is the European Commission's strategy to make Europe climate neutral and to become a circular economy by 2050. The Green Deal was launched in 2019 and is rapidly approaching its third birthday. The Green Deal itself is a very broad and comprehensive programme of activity which covers many aspects of European society. These are shown on the slide, but not all are relevant to coil coating. I've highlighted those which have a direct impact on our industry and its markets. They're shown in red, and the first of these on the top left is the Green Deal's ambition to reduce carbon dioxide emissions to zero by 2050. Alongside that brave ambition, the Commission is aiming to have a toxic-free environment through zero pollution within the same timescale. To achieve these ambitions, it is mobilising all industries, not just coil coating, but every industry in Europe to deliver a clean and circular economy. The final theme is related to the construction market, which, as you saw earlier, is the main market for pre-painted metals. And this is the Building Renovation Initiative, which is looking to create a far more energy and resource efficient construction sector within Europe than it is today. Green Deal therefore contains some key strategies that will shape the coil coating industry and its markets going forward. The first of these strategies is contained within the European Climate Law document, which will force manufacturing industries to be zero carbon by 2050. This will inevitably lead to the decarbonisation of the coil coating process and a change in some of the manufacturing techniques that we currently use. The second sits within the Circular Economy Action Plan. This contains a number of initiatives aimed at eco-design, the way in which we design and manufacture our products, product claims and greenwashing. Greenwashing in particular is a major concern for the European Commission. And finally, product passports. These are digital passports that will detail the chemical components of products placed on the European market. The third important strategy is the Industrial Strategy for Europe, which will define the future emission limits for coil coaters. This strategy is not only confined to coil coating, but will set the emission limits for all manufacturing industry in Europe over the coming years. Fourth important strategy is the Chemical Strategy for Sustainability. I'm sure some of you are aware of the REACH legislation, which controls the type of chemicals that we can use in our products. They're currently revising this legislation to make sure more potentially harmful chemicals are restricted in their use. I've highlighted on the slide two specific initiatives within the Chemical Strategy for Sustainability. These are the proposed restriction on PFAS chemicals, some of which are used in our PVDF coated products, and the proposed restriction on the amount of microplastics that are liberated into the environment. Many products on the European market, such as tyres, textiles, and painted wood, are known to generate these small particles of plastic. These two restrictions are not specific to coil coating, but cover many industries that use either PFAS chemicals or have the potential to generate microplastics in the environment. Finally, the renovation wave for Europe will have a major impact on the construction market, as it will seek to improve the energy performance of new and old buildings. This will mean that we will have to work even more closely with our customers to develop the right energy efficient systems for metal-clad buildings. The Green Deal will therefore create a number of forces that will shape the coil coating industry going forward. On the one side, we have legislative push, such as the new industrial strategy, which will define how we make our products, and the Chemical Strategy for Sustainability, which will define what we can use to make our products. And then on the market side, we will have a pull from customers who are responding to European-wide initiatives, such as the renovation wave in construction and the development of more energy-efficient green appliances for the consumer market. The Green Deal therefore presents a number of challenges to the coil coating industry, but we also believe that it will create many opportunities for us to further grow and develop the market for our pre-painted products. ECCA has been working very hard to minimise the impact of the Green Deal and to create new opportunities for our products. We have been active participants in the public consultation programmes that have been launched by the European Commission. Examples of these include the PFAS restriction that I talked about earlier and the revision of the Industrial Emissions Directive. We've been working very closely with other associations such as SEPE, the European Paint Association, and EUROFA, the European Steel Association, to ensure a single industry voice to the Commission on key topics that are relevant to us all. We've also been funding major projects which would enable our members to get ahead of the curve with regards to the Green Deal. The first of these is a set of life cycle analyses, which I'll come on to in a moment. We've just completed a very important project on decarbonisation of our coating process, which has produced a number of options for our members. And finally, we have a research programme underway to understand the extent and mechanism of microplastic formation from pre-painted metals. In this latter example, we firmly believe that pre-painted metals will generate less plastics less microplastics, but competitive alternative materials in the environment. Before we finish, I want to mention the ECCA Premium label, which is a good example of how we've tried to educate the market on the sustainability credentials of our process and product. This label is available to our members who need to satisfy independent assessors on their performance in these 4 key areas: product quality, manufacturing quality, product sustainability, and manufacturing sustainability. The use of this label and the ownership of this label enables our members to differentiate themselves in the market against alternative materials such as post-painted aluminium. I'd like to conclude the section on sustainability with a reference to these 2 important documents. These are life cycle analyses of pre-painted metal and post-painted metal. They were conducted in accordance with the European standards by a leading environmental consultancy, Anthesis, and independently verified by a panel of experts. The first, on the left, is a comparative assessment of pre-painted aluminium and post-painted aluminium for the construction market. The second, on the right, is a comparative assessment of pre-painted and post-painted steel for the domestic appliance manufacturing. In both studies, the pre-painted metal product had a lower environmental impact than the post-painted alternatives. Both documents are available on our website, and you can access a video explaining the studies via the link on the page. That's been a very quick run through of this very important topic of sustainability. If you'd like further information on any of the subjects I've discussed, then I'm sure we could arrange a future webinar to do that in more detail. With that, I'd hand over to Chantal.
Thank you, Thierry. So I will finish this webinar with the subject switching to pre-painted metal. So this is a broad topic, but a key subject, especially today, with environmental pressure and high cost of energy. So it's not possible to go into details in 5 minutes, but I will highlight today the main important point of attention if you want to switch from post-painted to pre-painted metals. So about general regulation, it's important to dedicate the shop floor and the line, so the coil coating line, steel service center, and other customers, to dedicate the working team to work in a very clean environment, no dust, to protect the contact with the pre-painted metal, no contact with metallic material, only rubber and Teflon to protect the pre-painted metal, to work in a controlled temperature, be careful, not below 16 degrees because it's too cold and we have the risk to have cracks, and to implement inspection area. It's really a finished product. We have to supply to you, to our customer, without any dust, without any defect. Next, Ivan. So about the processing, an important point too, and many times we have questions from the customer, are you sure that it's possible to bend the pre-painted metal, to stretch it without crack, without lack of adhesion? Yes, answer is clearly yes, all is possible with pre-painted metal, but we have to be sure to select the right basis steel, basis aluminium, and the right paint. Now, Michel has explained you, we have a lot of possibilities, and really this combination of the right paint, the right basis metal is really the success for the good processing. So you see here with some example that even severe deep drawing are possible if we stretch, if we deform in 3 directions, no problem with the basis metal and the paint. Profiling is really well adapted to the pre-painted metal. We have a progressive bending of the strip by using the shape roll that's very soft. Step by step, we form the pre-painted metal very easily. The bending, absolutely no problem to bend, but here we have to be careful about the contact between the metal and the tooling, absolutely to protect the tools. Next, Ivan. Joining is a key point because we cannot weld the pre-painted metal, so we have to look at other joining methods. Adhesive bonding is a very good joining method because we can reduce the stress concentration. We can develop complex assemblies. Dissimilar substrate can be joined. We can decrease the weight of the assembly, and we have no modification of the substrate. So classical adhesive bonding is the omega shape to increase the rigidity of a flat sheet, or as you see here, a train door. Really common for the bus tool. We can increase the resistance to flexion and to vibration, and we have a lead toughness, so absolutely waterproof assembly. Another joining method is the clinching, that especially well adapted for organic coated steel. We preserve the coating. It's very easy to industrialize, and that's quite cheap. That's quick, we have no pollution, and we can combine this with adhesive bonding. The design, that's a very huge subject, and I will explain you just some example, but again, it's possible to have a specific webinar on this kind of subject. So here you can see some corners. So the corners are usually welded. With prepainted steel, it's not possible, so we have to redesign the corner. So on the left, you see an example with a clinch, and on the right, you see an example when we use self-riveting to design the corner. So the storage of the pre-painted metal, that's really a key point, and it's extremely sensitive. If we do not store in the right condition, we can have corrosion. So this is why you have to be very careful, and the ECCA has prepared a very interesting brochure about the storage guideline for pre-painted metal that's available on the website. You see here the link, extremely interesting document. And I will finish by the approach cost saving of switching from post-painted to pre-paint. So it's not easy to have a unique approach for all market segments and different parts we see on the markets. And together with the ECCA marketing committee, and especially the coil coater on steel, we have worked on a case study to get a global overview about the cost of a finished part in post-painted steel and pre-painted steel. So this is an example of a part on cold roll steel with the processing and joining. Have in mind it's an estimation. And you will see on this graphic no precise cost, but we work in percentage, and I will explain you here all the steps we have identified with our customer. And this work has been done with a lot of customers. So about post-painted metal, that's steel here, you see the basis cost, about 40% of the total cost. And we have to add the paint here. It's a powder paint, 80 microns. It's quite expensive, 20% of the total cost. After we add the processing, about 14% of the cost, even the processing. Yes, and the joining, about 1% of the cost. On this, we have to add the quality follow-up, 3%. The work, so all the operators who have to work on the post-painting line, that's 8% of the cost. After that, the chemicals and the energy, so 3%, but you can understand that with the new estimation of the booming energy, that's more expensive. We have to add on that the depreciation, because the post-painting line is expensive, some indirect cost, and we finish by the scrap. So this is 100% of the cost of a post-painted part. So if we have a look to the pre-painted part, so the basis material will be more expensive, that is sure, but we can save a lot of other costs. We have only on top the processing, you see here 18%. On top, we have the joining, small costs, and the indirect cost. So finally, the conclusion is the fact that we can gain when we switch to pre-painted steel about 7 to 15% of the value creation. So this is really the summary of a lot of case study we have worked together. And I will finish my presentation by this very positive news. Yvonne, you can
Thank you, Chantal.
conclude.
Yes, we are already at the conclusion. So as a conclusion, I would just like to repeat what you've heard during the webinar. Pre-painted metal has outstanding and consistent product quality, and there is a track record of proven in-service performance. It offers infinite color and design possibilities. It has lower environmental impact than alternatives, for example, post-painting, as demonstrated by the LCA studies we've been running. And it guarantees cost savings and improved productivity. If you want to know more, I just wanted to point out that we have several websites, including ECCA Academy, which is really an educational website. If you have a specific question, you can always contact us. Either you have my email address, but also at info@prepaintedmail.eu, and then you can follow us on LinkedIn or on YouTube.